Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chentex Multimedia Livecast for Monday, September the 11th. First of all, let's take a very quick look at the weather. The summary for the weather is maximum today is going to be 29. Quite pleasant, I must say, and mostly sunny. Chance of rain is 5%. And patchy fog was seen in the morning in the west and mostly sunny in the afternoon. Light winds becoming north to northeasterly. 20 to 30 kilometers in the middle of the day. Fire danger is obviously very high at this point in time. And of course, the UV index is at 8, which is very, very high. So, sun protection is by far recommended. So, if you're going out there in the sun, please do take care and be very, very cautious because this Queensland sun is not forgiving at all. Well, top news for today. Melbourne would be just days away from entering the second step of lockdown as Victoria's daily coronavirus cases continue to drop, which is good news. New South Wales health authorities are scrambling to trace the contacts of a Sydney taxi driver who may have spread COVID-19 across the city. So again, public transport, public places, you are always exposed to that risk. There are fresh vaccine hopes after federal government announced almost 6 million funding to support the development of 3 Australia-made drug options. So there are 3 options, but it's good to see the government is supporting the research and development of these vaccines and that they are behind there so that they don't fall short of funding and that the research work can go on. Follow our Chentex Multimedia for updates and live streams from Australia and from around the world. Victorians can now be proud, state praised as new cases hit a 3-month low, which is a very, very good news. And of course, that Sydney taxi driver one we told, and well research shows that virus survivors could have a long life symptoms and side effects. That's a news which we covered last week as well. Well, just a very quick look at the numbers. So, Queensland 1,152. We'll hear from the Queensland government in a minute as well, from Mr. Stephen Miles. And recovery 1,123. Deaths 6. Total cases in Australia 26,898 and 24,057 recovery. Deaths are 849. And of course, when we look at worldwide, the number is now sitting at 30.9 million and 21.9 million recovery, which makes it around 9,558,000 deaths. Well, I hope you are enjoying the school holidays with the kids. Well, yes, it's a wonderful time and you can see all the little ones out and about as well. So it's wonderful and I hope everyone has a good time during these school holidays under the current circumstances, of course, and obviously. And so enjoy, but enjoy within reason and always be safety first. So always remain safe by doing all the things that are very, very necessary. Well, right now, just take a very quick look at the headlines, and after that, we'll head straight to Queensland Parliament.
The southern state yesterday recorded only 14 new cases of COVID-19, although that was sadly tempered with news there had been 5 more deaths. The Premier said he wouldn't rule out easing restrictions early, but cautioned against complacency. Authorities in New South Wales are frantically trying to track down people who may have come into contact with a Sydney taxi driver who worked while potentially infected with COVID-19. Authorities say the man, who was working mostly in the city's southwestern suburbs, may have been infectious for up to 10 days while driving passengers. A massive leak of US Treasury documents has linked Australian banks to billions of dollars in suspected money laundering. The Big Four and several other Australian banks are mentioned hundreds of times in the documents dubbed the FinCEN files. Shared by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the documents have been seen by the ABC and they detail money flows worth $2 trillion suspected of being the proceeds of crime or corruption. Now, the documents are not evidence of criminality, but are reports of suspicious transactions raised with the US Treasury. And an Australian citizen and his British colleague have been killed in a bomb blast in the Solomon Islands. The pair was working for a Norwegian project tracking down World War II munitions in the Pacific Island nation. They were killed in the capital, Honiara, when a bomb exploded in a residential building.
So that's the headlines for today. And as promised right now, let's go to Queensland Parliament to get the latest update on the status.
She's 13, a young woman in her teens being managed by Metro South. It's because of our very strong hotel quarantine program that we've been able to keep Queenslanders safe. It's been incredibly important, and I want to thank, on behalf of all Queenslanders, those hotels, hotel owners and hotel workers who have assisted us and police in enforcing this hotel quarantine. It's been incredibly effective and important as we seek to increase the number of overseas travellers able to come back to Queensland. We'll be out right now talking to hotels about whether they can participate in our hotel quarantine program, and I'd urge them to consider participating. It's incredibly important for the health of Queenslanders. That means we now have 17 active cases. The total number of cases we've had in Queensland so far, 1,153. Of those 17 active cases, 11 are in West Moreton and 3 are in Metro South. So as you can see, while the numbers continue to go down, they are clustered in the southern suburbs and around Ipswich. The number of tests in the last testing period was 2,708, well below the level that we'd like to be testing at. And so our other message for today is that if for any reason you think you may have symptoms of COVID-19, please do go and get tested, especially if you're in the Ipswich region or the southern suburbs of Brisbane. We have the Chief Health Officer and the Deputy Commissioner available also.
So good news again for Queensland, that one new case that was found in someone in hotel quarantine, and quarantine has stood us very, very well as we've been managing not only quarantine of people from overseas, but also immediate quarantine when we've been contact tracing. And I thank every single person who has agreed to go into quarantine and has managed it so well. We've not seen a lot of testing over the weekend, which is understandable given that hopefully we're coming to the end of this current cluster. But I do emphasise it is really, really important, if you've got any symptoms, to come forward and get it tested and isolate yourself until you get that result. It's that work that will keep all Queenslanders safe as we go forward. Thank you.
Morning. If I could just give you a quick update on our current phase of operations since August the 8th, which is phase 6 for us in terms of the border controls and quarantining that we're doing in Queensland. We've currently met 2,792 flights, checked 122,507 passengers, domestic passengers that is, and have refused entry to 207 people. In terms of our roads, we have checked 155,921 vehicles and turned around 6,127 persons. We currently have 3,938 people in hotel quarantine in Queensland, and overall our system is operating as we would expect. The figures that you hear talked about today and the numbers of infections in this state are testament to the work that's been done by our community and our agencies to make sure that we contain the virus in Queensland. And I have to say that our quarantining has been the number one thing that has made the difference for this state. I'm sure the Chief Health Officer would agree, because she just mentioned to me before the media. And a thank you to all the hotels that are working with us to do that. It is incredibly challenging for us. Our planning is very detailed, and we are continuing to work with those hotels to make sure that we have sufficient quarantining here in Queensland. Unfortunately, over the weekend, we did see 8 fines issued, and I just want to raise that. We saw 662 licensed premises checked across the state, but we had to issue 2 penalty infringement notices here in Brisbane, one at Sunnybank and one in the Valley. And what was disappointing is that both of these licensed premises had previously been warned about, one, not keeping registers, the others around people not socially distancing in the numbers that were in there. They chose not to take that warning that was given to them formally through police in the Office of Liquor and Gaming Regulation, and they have now been fined. The other ones, and it's a message for those people that do have exemptions or are allowed into this state or are quarantining in accordance with those exemptions, that they must abide by them. The other 6 penalty infringement notices were all individuals that did not comply with their exemption requirements, and that was right across the state, so Townsville, South East Corner and elsewhere. But overall, I have to say that we're in a very good shape because of the work that's been done by the community at large. We'd like to thank the community for its ongoing efforts and just remind everyone it's not the time to be complacent. We are really in a good position. We want to keep going that way. Thank you.
Clarify the Sunnybank establishment, was that a restaurant, and was the Valley
Karaoke bar.
Karaoke bar?
Yes.
Sunnybank, and
Yes.
the Valley was
A hotel.
hotel.
Yes. Thank you.
No, it's not that. So tonight, stadiums have agreed to trial increasing the density for a small number of people at the Gabba Stadium. So at the moment, people are attending at a 50% density, so around half the normal numbers. Now the plan for the grand final, if everything goes well between now and then, is to increase that capacity to 75%. So they just want to test that process with 200 people who've agreed to be part of that trial. So to test the enhanced measures, so using of masks and how people remain in the seats, how all that is managed. So instead of having 1 in 2 seats vacant, there'll be 1 in 4 seats vacant. And just to work that through with a small number, because to suddenly go and increase from 50% to 75% without having trialled all those processes makes it a bit difficult. Now we know that outdoor events are much, much safer than indoor events. We also know that the stadiums are really good because everyone has a seat and people are asked and do stay in that seat. So were there to be a case, which I think is very unlikely given where we are at the moment with our most recent cluster, if there were to be a case, it would be very easy to contact trace. And if you remember, we do this all the time for planes. We contact trace 2 rows in front, 2 behind, 2 either side. So we'd be able to do this here, and this is actually much safer than a plane because it's outdoors. So it's a really good thing to just test the processes rather than do it for the first time with a full stadium.
And Dr. Young, is
Questions
So
been
right
asked
from
by the media.
start, I've said where we've got COVID-safe plans, we should use them. Now, we don't have COVID-safe plans for people's own homes. Of course we don't. People will, in their own home, manage themselves as much as they feel comfortable. But we can't go and dictate what people do in their own homes other than the size of the gathering. So that's why that's in place. Outside people's homes, and you've heard the Deputy Police Commissioner about it, outside the homes people have COVID-safe plans and we have compliance strategies in place to ensure that people manage those COVID-safe plans. And this is the same for our stadiums across the state. They all have COVID-safe plans and they have compliance processes in place for those plans.
and Dr. Young, is 75% 30,000 or is it?
Yes. Yeah, 30,000 is 75% of the Gabba. So each stadium has different numbers, but for the Gabba that's their 75%. Sorry, I missed the first start. Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave that news conference there as we've got the updates, the numbers that have come out, which is pretty well done. It's not bad considering everything. So it's been wonderful. So ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, as we know, that Brisbane Indian Times and Australian Indian Radio, always support many of the local functions and events. And on the weekend, the online event, an evening of gratitude, which took place. And here's a message from them.
Hi, this is Sweena from Let's Bollywood Dance School.
Hi, this is Anu from Australian Indian Theatre.
Hello everyone, this is Pandita from Sargam Music Academy.
And we wanted to thank you all for joining us tonight in this unique collaboration that the three of us have put together,
which we wanted to bring to you as a thank you to all the people who have helped us sail through these difficult times. And tonight, you will be experiencing a unique blend of singing, dancing and drama.
And we hope you all enjoy it tonight. Thank you so much.
Good evening everyone and welcome to the Evening of Gratitude by Sargam Music Academy, Australian Indian Theatre and Let's Bollywood. I'm your host Anu.
And I am Pandita.
This evening is a salute to all those fearless people on the front line, health and social care workers, education and childcare workers,
key public services, local and national government, food and goods providers, public safety and national security, transport and utilities, communications and key financial services who are placing their lives in danger to save ours.
Absolutely. Despite the dark clouds of gloom, silver linings are emerging bright enough to bring hope.
This is what we need to focus on, and this is what this evening is all about.
Yes, so let's begin by thanking the Almighty for giving us the strength during these times. Presenting a collaboration by three local groups, Sargam Music Academy, Australian Indian Theatre and Let's Bollywood, presenting to you Ganesh Vandana.
And we were so glad to be part of that in terms of being the media sponsor. And we saw over the weekend that how successful this event was, because it was very well put together. And it's wonderful to see, especially all the young talent and everyone come together for that wonderful function. So, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's move on, and we'll get some of the news that's been happening. And of course, what has our Prime Minister been saying? He is refusing to commit to a zero emission by 2050. Let's hear that report.
Prime Minister, welcome to the program. Now, you've made a series of energy announcements during the week, but there's one we haven't heard yet. Will you commit Australia to achieving a net zero emissions target by 2050?
Well, as you know, our policy is to achieve that in the second half of this century, and I will certainly achieve that, and that's why this week's announcements were so important, because it was about the technology we need to invest in now, which will make it a reality, particularly on the other side of 2030, and I think even the sort of target you've talked about then becomes absolutely achievable. I'm interested in doing the things that make that happen, and I think that is very achievable, but it involves making the investments that we have set out for ARENA and the CEFC this week. That's how you actually get there, and that's what matters, because we're very focused on lower emissions, and I believe that can be achieved, but what I'm more focused on is the doing.
Well, the technology roadmap is about to be released. The government's been working on this for a while. So just to be clear on this, you're saying a net zero target by 2050, it can be achieved, but it won't be in the roadmap as the end goal here, as the actual target?
Well, the technology roadmap, as you say, will be released shortly. What we've been saying all along, though, is it's about the technology, and that will produce the results, and the results means lower emissions. And what we need to do is make sure the investments are driven by having lower emissions, lower costs, and supporting both today's jobs and future jobs.
But you've got to know where you're going, haven't you, PM? You've got to know what the end of the road is.
Well, we do know where we're going. Yeah, we do, and the end of the road is lower costs, lower emissions and more jobs. That's where we're going. And on the 2020 target, well, of course, we've just met that target very comfortably by 430 million tonnes. And I remind you, as you will recall, back in 2013, we took a plan to the election to achieve that. That was actually dismissed. But we had a plan to achieve a 2020 target, and we've achieved it, and not only just achieved it, we've bettered it. And the same will be true for 2030, and the investments we've outlined this week and the many other initiatives that we're already engaged in.
And I'll come to those
2030 targets as well.
Just on 2050, I mean, you've got the farmers.
The age-old battle between politicians and journalists. A journalist will always try and get a yes or no, and sometimes frame the questions in a way it's become hard. And politicians, being politicians in polished ones, will always answer that in a roundabout manner without commenting to that. So, but as it was said, that it's not. The roadmap is there. The roadmap will be delivered very soon as well, and that is the target in there. But whether the commitment is there or not is what the journalist was trying to get. Well, right now the news that everyone's always looking forward to or following up on, because this is where a lot of things hinge around, is Victoria. So let's hear from Premier Daniel Andrews.
That is 21 new cases since my update yesterday. 13 of those cases are linked to known outbreaks and complex cases. 8 are under investigation by our public health team. I'm sad to have to update you that there are now 757 Victorians who've passed away due to this pandemic, 7 since the last report, 1 male in their 60s, 3 males in their 80s, 1 male and 2 females in their 90s. 6 of those 7 deaths are linked to outbreaks in aged care. There are 89 Victorians in hospital. 8 of those are in intensive care, and 5 of those 8 are on a ventilator. A total of 2,562,996 test results have been received, which is an increase of 11,952 since yesterday. Can I thank those almost 12,000 Victorians who got tested just a day or so ago? That's a really powerful contribution to our fight against the virus, and again, can I urge every single Victorian, if you've got even the mildest of symptoms, please come forward and get tested. It's how we can fight this virus, it's how we can get these rules off, it's how we can move and take those safe and steady steps towards a COVID normal. We've got to keep those test numbers up. We've got to have that certainty that the picture we're getting is an accurate one. It's very, very simple. If people don't go and get tested, then we simply don't have the information, all the inputs that we need in order to make very, very difficult judgments. Even with very high testing rates, they are still difficult judgments, but they become even harder if we don't have people coming forward and getting tested. So to everyone who has got tested, thank you so much. And to anyone who's got symptoms, the only thing to do, don't wait till Monday, don't wait a moment, go and get tested. There's more than 200 sites. It's a very quick turnaround. 90% of results are back within 24 hours. It's a massive thing that you can do. Simple, but so important. There are 4,274 cases with an unknown source. That's an increase of 2 since yesterday's report. There are 123 healthcare workers who are active cases. We wish them well, and we thank them and their colleagues for the quite amazing work that they are doing in so many different settings, every hour of the day. It's truly impressive, and we thank all of those health heroes for their dedication. There are now 834 active cases in Victoria, so that number continues to fall. In terms of the metro-regional split, there is 8 of the 21, there's 18 in Metro Melbourne, 1 in regional Victoria, and obviously a couple that are subject to further work, just to work out exactly where they have actually been, rather than what their address might indicate.
So there you are, up to date on Australian Indian Radio and Brisbane Indian Times Daily Live Update, brought to you by Chentex Multimedia Network. So I was asked over the weekend, what is Chentex Multimedia Network? Well, Chentex operates Brisbane Indian Times, Australian Indian Radio, this daily Facebook Live updates, and our EDM, which is our electronic data marketing, which has a large database and you might be on that database and you will receive notification every Friday. So there's a range of things that are being done, which all come under that parent company, Chentex Proprietary Limited. Right now, it's time for a quick commercial break.
ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी 1989 से लेकर अब तक का विश्वसनीय और माननीय ब्रिस्बेन का रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। उषा चंद्रा, जो कि ग्लोबनेट की डायरेक्टर है, अपने ग्राहकों को ईमानदार और एथिक सर्विसेज देती हैं। अगर आप ब्रिस्बेन की प्रॉपर्टी में पूंजी लगाना चाहते हैं और आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी को प्रोफेशनली मैनेज किया जाए, तो आप आज ही कांटेक्ट कीजिए उषा चंद्रा को। लैंडलाइन नंबर है 38654466 और मोबाइल नंबर है 0419775416। और आप प्रॉपर्टी की अधिक जानकारी और करंट अपडेट्स के लिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे लॉगिन कर सकते हैं। हमारी वेबसाइट है www.globnetreality.com.au। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी आपका अपना लोकल रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। हमारा पता है ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, शॉप नंबर 5, 2281 Sandgate Road, Bundal, Queensland. Globenet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And it definitely is their world. Well, right now, let's go to New South Wales as we continue with the news in brief.
Overnight, New South Wales had 2 new cases, one from an overseas traveller and one from an existing cluster, which is positive. We had over 13,500 tests, and we do see a bit of a dip on the weekend, so can I please ask everybody to come forward and get tested even today. Don't wait till tomorrow, please come forward today. But I also want to extend our deepest condolences to a man in his early 70s who unfortunately passed away at Royal North Shore Hospital yesterday. He got the disease from one of the CBD clusters recently and unfortunately succumbed to the disease, and our thoughts are with his family and friends at this very difficult time.
And of course, the thoughts are with those people all the time. Well, right now, let's look at the next news, which is about the parents of a 3-year-old who went missing, and about the ordeal, how they dealt with that. And of course, as per our disclaimer on the front, a lot of these news and things are sourced online, and credits are given to everyone who has contributed.
I don't think I've ever felt so sick in my stomach of what had happened. When I just went out there initially and I'm looking and looking.
The 3-year-old who went missing in thick bushland, dressed only in his pajamas for almost 12
honestly,
hours, but he was found by his grandfather and uncle, to the sheer joy of his parents.
Felt like he's going to be out there somewhere, so scared and cold.
I felt the worst for him. We were expecting
I didn't
the worst.
think we were going to find him alive. I thought I was going to have to bury my son.
It was terrible conditions. The weather was about 9 degrees outside. It was raining. It was hail, and when that hail come in, it just made it all times 10 what I was going through, even worse. And yeah, it was seriously a happiest ending that anybody could ever ask for in a situation like that. I could have ran on water, mate. The news when it came in from my mum, running up these stairs over here,
she almost fell up the
and
stairs.
that we've got him, he's alive. You know, he's well. I've spoken to him. The joy tears were just.
I just fell to the floor
for a second. You know, for a couple of minutes of just, this is as easy as that.
What a wonderful ending to that story. Grandparents coming to the rescue are there. Well, we have all known about coronavirus, how it spreads, but let's take a very quick look at what's in the atmosphere, that space that we share with everyone. If you look at it carefully, if you magnify it not 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, or 1,000,000 times, what will you see in the air that we breathe? Let's take a look at this report. Quick warning that it might be disturbing to some people.
Thinking of going back to the office? Hold up. Do you want to know what happens when someone sitting at the desk opposite from you coughs? This simulation is about to show you exactly where the particles go. Trust me, it's disgusting. Watch this.
Across Japan, people are learning to live with this virus. The streets are busy, and Japan's residents are doing their best to manage the stifling summertime humidity. Things are starting to look like normal. But look a little closer. At least 500,000 times closer. These are the molecules that fill the air. Every breath we take contains 25 sextillion of them. Some of these make up tiny particles, things like dust and pollen blown around by the wind. Some are things like pollutants from car exhausts and smoke. And then, of course, there's viruses.
And that's just one breath. Imagine how many there are in this intersection, or your office, or the train.
Now this country, famous for its technology, is trying to map tiny, near invisible particles to help understand how the coronavirus spreads. And to do it, they're using the fastest computer ever made. Meet Fugaku. On the outside, the Riken Centre for Computational Science in Western Japan doesn't look like much, but inside is a computer that's almost 3 times more powerful than any other computer the world has ever seen. It combines the power of nearly 160,000 processing units and can perform in a few days tasks that would have taken its older Japanese predecessor K an entire year.
The problem of droplets and the virus is you can't see it, so people worry or think things are okay without any evidence. I think it's important to make the virus visible.
Fugaku has been brought online a year ahead of schedule, harnessing that incredible speed in our fight against coronavirus. It's already identifying how those tiny virus droplets move and spread in all kinds of circumstances. For locations like here in the office, the computer is already coming up with real-world simulations of how the virus travels through the air. Here's a pretty normal office setup where the partition between desks is 120 centimetres high. When someone coughs in this situation, some of the particles hit the partition, but almost half don't. But look what happens when you raise the partition by just 20 centimetres. Now the partition is 140 centimetres high. When the simulation is run again, almost all the particles coat the partition. Those that don't are dispersed higher and away from other people. Companies in Japan are already heeding this advice, but you can also go too high.
If you make it too high, like 1.6 metres, it reduces the ventilation capacity in the room. It creates a situation where aerosols can stick around for a long time when a person coughs.
It's rush hour here in Tokyo this morning, and keeping your social distance isn't always easy. Scientists also modelled Japan's notoriously packed public transport system and have suggested changes to make travelling safer. We're heading into the Yamanote train line. This is one of the busiest lines in Tokyo and often running well above capacity.
Here's what a carriage is like when that happens. The green lines represent good airflow. The red lines show stagnant air. Between the passengers, the air has almost nowhere to go. But Fugaku's simulations show having fewer passengers and opening windows can increase ventilation by up to 2 to 3 times.
If there are 230 people on a crowded train where the capacity is 160, there's only about 6 cubic metres of fresh air that one person can use in an hour.
With the power of more than 20 million smartphones, the supercomputer is simulating the virus and also searching for drugs that might be able to fight the symptoms of it, digging through a database of more than 2,000 potential treatments. It's found some promising results already.
The computer compares existing medications with everything we know about COVID-19, looking for any matches or similarities. Researchers looked at everything from anti-cancer agents to common cold medicine and simulated how they could bind to proteins unique to the virus, and then looked into how
So there you are, the world's fastest computer tracing all those particles in the air that we breathe, and those simple little steps that can be taken to prevent. And as we have seen from this stimulation as well, that there will be a lot of studies done. There will be a lot of things that will change in the world that we live in. Many will change for the better. Many will cause a lot of heartache to other people, who are so used to going about their daily lives in the manner that they do. But, when you look at all these kind of things, so there will be many new laws, many workplace health and safety rules that will come about, and there will be a lot of other things. And a lot of that will be for the better, as I've mentioned, because, people will get healthier, a better knowledge of the environment, the knowledge of the space that we're working in, personal hygiene, and all this will be combined so that people are more aware of their health and all the circumstances and the behavior, and of course simple things like wearing a disposable glove when you're going into the gym, and just chuck it off, after you finish. You don't know, everyone's in there sweaty, they're touching all those handles and bars that you go and touch. But getting back to this fastest computer, I have always said to my computer technician that one day there will be a fast computer, because they keep upgrading our computer systems, and I always keep complaining they're not going as fast as they can. So, I keep saying that to our computer technician and to our guys that, hey, maybe one day there will be a fast computer. So that's a bit of a joke on the side. Well, right now, let's go overseas. And I should have said that because that news was from overseas there as well. And right now, we'll go to US. And of course, we know making news there is the passing away of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And let's take a look at that story and how it unfolded. So the mourners gather outside Supreme Court to pay their respect to late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg shortly after her death. Victorian, the Premier, and others have also sent their messages.
She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that.
And so there you are, from the President himself saying that she was an amazing woman. And right now, the last news for today is we covered a little bit of the Afghan and the Afghani community and about the way that their names are being held. This next story is not about that coverage. This is about Brett Sutton, who is the Victorian Chief Health Officer, and he apologizes for offending Melbourne's Afghan community with comments that he made about an outbreak in the city's southeast. And as we know, when you're out there in the public saying things like that, you need to be very mindful of the cultural sensitivities that lie around, especially in today's world, in today's day and age. You need to be super careful about what you say. And of course, it doesn't mean that only in today's world. You should never ever say things about some other community unless you are 100% sure of what that is and what kind of impact that might be having on others as well.
Start with an apology. I know that members of the Afghan community might have felt singled out by statements I made recently. That was absolutely not my intention. So sorry. I have volunteered a couple of times to work in Afghanistan in 1997 and 2003. It's a country I love and respect, and its people. So, Mazarat Meham or Wabakhay, I apologise.
What had you said that offended some in the Afghani?
Well, I referenced my trips to Afghanistan, and I was reflecting on the fact that actually all communities across the world prioritise and care for those closest to them, and everyone wants to do the right thing. It inadvertently called out Afghanistan, which I think was inappropriate, but I was just reflecting on my experience of working with diverse communities internationally in humanitarian work, and the fact that there really is a universal human experience. We all want to look after our families, we all want to protect the broader community. I think that's the case across Melbourne. We need to enable people to do the right thing and to support them in doing the right thing.
The two people that are in...
Of course, doing the right thing and saying the right thing is very, very important. Well, I was going to leave it at that, but one last clip I will show you is with Liberal Senator Amanda Stoker, whom we were with in this weekend, because there was a campaign launch for Pinky Singh in New Farm, and she was there with us, and it was wonderful to catch up with her. But this clip here shows that, you know, how she got a little bit of a helping hand while she was working from home attending Parliament. Here's that last clip on a lighter note.
Of course, construction businesses are well represented amongst small businesses.
We had some questions from Senator Davey a little bit earlier about the industrial relations flexibility that has been implemented. Look at this, I'm getting a massage. Check it out.
We're very impressed, Senator, we're very impressed.
We all want one.
There is some upside to this. We have talked about the industrial relations flexibility that's been built in as part of the emergency measures, including JobKeeper.
Yep.
Are you able to quantify the impact that those measures have had on employment rate?
And the little one was there on the weekend as well, you know, with a curly hair. Good to see that. Well, right now, it's a goodbye from me, but I'll leave you on, if you are like me, feeling grounded, missing all the travel that we used to do, going around here and there, as we, you know, as part of the job or part of all the things that we did in the community. Here's a small clip that's been made and put together by TikTok users on, you know, people who are missing travelling.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the captain speaking. Just about ready to depart. Should be away on schedule on the next couple of minutes. So, flight time will be...
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention, please? Please note, this is not a boarding announcement. Welcome to Emirates and Malaysia Airlines Flight EK127 to Vienna. Your flight will be ready for boarding in 10 minutes. We ask you to keep the boarding lanes.
Thank you for waiting at the Smart Virgin Airlines customers in premium economy.
For customers who simply need additional time on board, welcome on pre-board customers.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. It's been wonderful having your company today. And until tomorrow, it is goodbye from me. I hope you enjoyed that lighter note part there on the end. And until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. Be good, and most of all, remain safe.